Brighter Morning with Bo. Thank you for staying. You are on MCTV, Multicultural TV, beamed in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. Brighter Morning with Bo is on every morning, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Our next guest is Ms. Ramona Ramdial, former MP for Couva North, former teacher, and now in private life and personal business. And we will talk with her a little bit about her reactions to the budget. Good morning. Morning, Ramona.
Hi,
how are you?
morning, Bo. Good. How are you?
Good. I will start with a simple question, which is that what was your initial reaction to the budget?
Initially, I thought when I heard the minister reading, I said to myself, okay, this is somewhat of a floundering budget. A budget that in some instances, when you look at what he proposed for the long term, he seemed to be a bit lost because there are arms in every sector and not with any specific purpose. So that is what it is that I got in the first instance of hearing the minister speak. Let me also say that it's a budget of a lot of short-term fixes, not much thought from last year to this year, and I think it's all because of the pandemic and the environment that we are in, and how do you really move post-pandemic. I think we're still in that phase of figuring it out. So that was my initial reaction.
Okay, where do you think he missed the boat?
I think that is with respect to the diversification thrust, because when you listen to the details, for example, with agriculture, you would have been privy to information over the past year where the recovery committee, roadmap committee, had made recommendations and had suggested a $500 million fiscal package. And those members would have later on said that that particular plan and package was not properly implemented to diversify and to move forward within the agricultural sector. And then now in this particular budget, you have a further $300 million that has been proffered for the agricultural sector, much less. And then when you look at the overall budget also, you have less, again, going to the Ministry of Agriculture for that thrust in agriculture. So I think that is something that, the government is speaking a lot about food security, about reducing the food import bill. But at the end of the day, you're not really seeing the resources dedicated to really making that happen.
Yeah, I mean, we have a kind of anomaly here, which I'm going to raise with you now. The minister talked about inflation at 2%. That is a joke. This morning he's reported in the papers as having said to the manufacturing sector that high prices are out of his control, and that of course would include high food prices. I think we all know what is happening globally. The price of a container of any goods here is almost twice what it was, in some cases 120, 150% more.
And I think food inflation increased by 50% this year.
And it's going to be more and more significant. We're going to have a double. We are basically imported food, the price of imported food is going to almost double in Trinidad and Tobago. And yet at the same time, the thrust in agriculture seems good on announcement, but very lethargic in terms of action and implementation. In addition, I had the Minister of Agriculture here, and we had a discussion, and he said that, even if we produce more food, it is going to be very, very difficult to control the food import bill because of the prices that are going to attend those foods that we continue to import. So it's almost like in agriculture, the government has taken a position look, everybody's saying we should have food security, we should grow more food. We will put some money in that. But really, we don't have faith or confidence that we can really do anything about that. I mean, am I wrong in making that kind of interpretation?
No, of course not. And what I also picked up from the budget with respect to agriculture, he spoke about reducing inflation, of course, but one way to reduce food inflation is to stimulate or encourage agricultural growth or higher agricultural production. And there is a mention from the THA and Tobago, I think yesterday or today on mainstream media, saying that they are prepared and they intend to give out 300 additional acres to Tobago farmers. But there's no mention of whether or not that is also going to take place or in a plan to give our farmers here in Trinidad additional lands and security of tenure to increase their agricultural production. So I really don't understand, like you, really how we are going to reduce food inflation. And it's the same with respect to the tourism sector, but I'll talk about that a little later.
And the land tenure issue has been dogging this country for many, many years. The Minister of Agriculture, who has been the Minister of Agriculture now going on 7 years, had made a commitment to deal with that. As an MP in my time, I can't remember how many hundreds of applications that I sent to him in terms of regularization. He was here on the program. He said that they are proceeding with this and they are also digitizing the process, etc. But meanwhile, the farmer remains insecure, the whole production system. And of course, we cannot just have land agriculture. We have to have technology-driven agriculture. We have to have sophisticated production systems, all of which are possible. We could have, what can I say, vertical systems that do not use the land in the same way. You know, so that there are various permutations that we need to use in agriculture, and I'm not seeing the energy, the focus, the direction, the clarity from the government. I mean, would you respond to that? I mean, you come from an agricultural community.
Well, it's the same challenges as MP together with your good self. And I think all my colleagues across the board that we would have had over the years with respect to farmers going to the bank for loans, unable to access loans to upgrade their business model and increase production because they don't have that security of tenure. So that is something that needs to be looked at ASAP and find a way somehow to get that renewal of tenure to these farmers. I know that the minister, I've seen that the minister made recommendations and with respect to the livestock industry. He didn't go too much in detail, but I understand that they are looking to improve and upgrade the livestock industry here. So we will just have to wait and see. You know, the budget, as they say, it's just a good plan on paper. It's how well you are able to implement thereafter and what you get done. So it's left to be seen whether or not these plans and projects will come to fruition, whether or not the government will have the resources at the end of the day to invest to make all of these projects a reality.
All right. What about issues? I mean, you have always taken an interest in tourism related issues. You want to respond to some of the issues there?
Definitely. I was talking to some of my counterparts in Tobago after the budget, and they were telling me, well, this is a Tobago budget. Because when you look at the details that went in terms of what Tobago was getting for the next fiscal year, one would also say it's a campaign budget. So when you look at what is happening in Tobago, though, is that tourism, there's an effort both with respect to stakeholders from Tobago with the Tourism Association, Hotel and Tourism Association, to really push Tobago forward. But when you look at global reports in terms of tourism surviving in a post-pandemic world, the predictions and the forecasts are that tourism will not really bounce back until 2023. And this is coming from the World Tourism Organization. I know that the minister predicted 2022, but it's really 2023. So what do you do in that phase of, while you wait for the actual tourism sector to pick up? And what we're seeing globally is that many countries and many private sector businesses that are involved in tourism and the business of tourism, they are doing something now that is called virtual reality tourism. So what they're doing, they're marketing their spaces and their countries with a virtual reality tour and virtual reality space where they offer their tourism sites and destinations via virtual reality. And it's quite creating quite an excitement on the international market. So that is something. I know Mark spoke earlier about pushing tourism and looking at all of the services engaged within the tourism sector and upgrading it. But I really think that looking at the whole virtual reality experience in terms of promoting Trinidad and Tobago tourism product can go a very long way. So when we are really back up and ready to accept visitors, that we will have a high increase of tourists coming to Trinidad and Tobago. I saw also, as you know, that they have introduced some new projects with respect to the Tobago Marriott Hotel. So far on paper, it looks good with respect to partnering with ETEC and having that project go forward. I don't think, as compared to the Sandals project a couple years ago, where we had so many issues, there was little or no information in the public domain. I don't know if you remember, but freedom of information, we had to go under the FOIA to request information on the Sandals project. So far, the Tobago Marriott looks acceptable, but we have to keep a close eye on how it progresses. And that project is carded to start in 2023, and it will create hundreds of jobs and then, of course, get into the business of attracting tourists. What I'm also very concerned about, Bo, is the Tobago expansion, the reconstruction of the Tobago terminal, and how soon before that project is delivered. Because, again, when we looked at the Sandals scenario, I remember the CEO of Sandals saying, well, even though the hotel would have been constructed or was going to start and they would have completed the project a few years after, nothing would have happened positively if that air bridge situation wasn't fixed. And that Tobago needed a new airport ASAP in order to accommodate that flow of tourists to any hotel in Tobago. So it's quite interesting. I know that there's still issues with land acquisition. I know that the construction started, but they say the devil is in the details. So during the Standing Finance Committee phase, all of these questions have to be asked in order to get a sense of where we are and what is happening with respect to Tobago tourism. Let me also quickly say that a new area or developing exciting area for tourism globally or worldwide is that of wellness tourism. So you can look at that avenue. We can look at that in terms of wellness tourism. I know when we previously held government, we had a thrust with respect to medical tourism, wellness tourism. But again, with COVID and surviving in a post-pandemic environment, it really needs to, some research and development needs to go into that in terms of promoting wellness tourism.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of tourism, I mean, we have to be very dense to think that COVID has come and we are planning to live with COVID for some time. The best estimates are that we are not going to be out of this thing before 2023, maybe the end of 2023. And
correct.
Even that, in my view, is optimistic because we don't know what the variables are. And you don't know what is possible again. For instance, there is no reason why we could not be hit by another health pandemic or something like that again. because the world has become so unpredictable. And we would have to be very dunce to think that we could just continue with tourism from 2020 as if nothing happened, and there are no changes that we must make in tourism in terms of accommodating psychologically what people feel, physically what they need, and also emotionally how their demands and their interest in experiences have changed. I think that is the value of the virtual reality marketing that you are beginning to see, which is that people are putting out the experience for you virtually, and you can decide then
Correct.
if you are enthused enough to take the experience in reality. But more than that, I think people will want to experience tourism differently. I don't think they would want to go in a hotel room like they used to. I think they want more outdoor spaces. I think they would like to have a situation in which social distancing is almost the norm in their environment, living with other strangers for a limited period of time. And I don't think we are thinking through those things. We are taking a kind of duncy attitude towards the tourism, and I find that debilitating, really. You want to comment? This is the last comment you'll have.
Let me also say at this juncture that, again, it's all a plan on paper. You know, there have been mixed reactions. I understand yesterday that one of the commodity items that the minister spoke about with the removal of VAT already exists. And it's more than one of those items that he would have mentioned in the budget 2 days ago. So it seems that there's also a lack of information coming to the minister with respect to moving forward. I know he has pegged our budget on a very high oil and gas rate. Again, we have to look at the deficit that our deficit keep increasing as we go along, and we need to deal with that. So all in all, Bo, as a businesswoman today, I must say that I was a little bit heartened by some of the incentives that was offered and proffered by the Minister of Finance. And we have to look to see how well and how easily business people can so access those incentives later on. I really particularly also want to support the whole digitization thrust. That's the way the world is going now. It's all online. It's all digital. And I would love the government to consider looking at the virtual reality spaces in terms of marketing Trinidad and Tobago. In the meantime, in this way, it's quite an exciting global phenomenon, and we should get on board if we're looking to trap those entities to come to Trinidad and Tobago. So that's really what I want to say. I wish you well. Your show is amazing. I try to log on daily as much as I can.
Thank you.
So it's great to see my former colleagues all busy and going about their business.
Well, I mean, you have to live, and you have to do what interests you and what is important to you. And as you know, ideas have always been important, and these conversations are very important for ideas. I want to thank you, Ramona, for coming on the program. We'll have you another time. You take care.
Sure, definitely. Anytime. Take care.
All right, then. We'll take a break at this point, and we'll come back to Mr. Fazal Karim. This is MCTV, and this is Brighter Morning with Bo. I am Bo Tiwari. Thank you.